Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews. I'm here with a review of a British psychological horror film from 2019. Well, premiered in 2019, was supposed to release in 2020. COVID hit, it got delayed for a whole year. Here we are in 2021. Finally, it has a release in the US. So, yeah, here we are. Okay, so this is, did I even say the title of the film? I'm talking about Saint Maud tonight. You might have heard about this one. It's been making the rounds, recently in the art house horror circles as well as the regular horror circles. As one of these kind of, new wave, artsy, psychological horror films, kind of like, Hereditary, Hereditary, Nocturne, Black Box, even, I guess. Starry Eyes, maybe. But either way, Saint Maud is a film about a nurse who is a devout Catholic named Maud. And she starts to take care of an older woman who is left frail and dying from a chronic illness, and she develops a relationship with this person while also dealing with a dark and troubling past. So, what do I say about Saint Maud? Well, I think I should start with the acting. The acting in the film is really good. I think the lead actress, whose name I can't remember, who plays Maud, does an absolutely amazing, killer job in this film. She's very, very creepy in some scenes, and, she's got a knack for horror films, I can tell. And I think that if she continues to work in the horror genre, she will be a welcome addition to the canon to the pantheon, I guess I should say, of, actors and actresses and performers in the genre who have come before her. The whole cast turns in a pretty solid performance. And the writing isn't amazing. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this film is poorly written or poorly made. But it's very much one of those psychological horror films that you've probably seen a million times. I don't want to, actually full-on spoil this movie, so I won't go into the details. But there is a specific, subgenre of psychological horror that involves a main character who is, a tad bit unhinged, and this is one of those kinds of movies. Without spoiling anything, it's one of those movies. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but watching it, you might find it a little derivative of other films, and I'm not going to name some other films, because that will definitely give away the plot structure of this film. But it's a tad bit derivative of other psychological horror films, which is a negative, but honestly, I'm not looking for absolutely perfect filmmaking here. The director, Rose Glass, this is her first film. She wrote and directed this film herself, and she did a damn good job. The film looks very, very nice. There are some shots of the city, some exterior shots, and some shots of Maud's very small apartment that are just very, very striking, very beautiful. There's some really good religious imagery in the film, a lot of religious iconography, specifically from, Maud's character being a bit of a religious fanatic. And there's also some really great music in the film. Nothing that's gonna blow you away. It's not a Goblin soundtrack by any means, but it's got a soundtrack, and that soundtrack has some strong moments in it, and that's really all I have to say about that. The pacing for the film, this film has a slow pace. I'm not saying it's boring, because this film is nowhere near boring. I was constantly engaged, constantly interested, glued to the screen, wanted to know where this film was going exactly, and why it was going this direction. And I think that I got what I wanted out of it, and that's really the best thing I can say about Saint Maud, is that it's kind of what you would expect it to be for the type of film it is, And if you're completely okay with that, then there's nothing inherently wrong here. I can understand if some people were disappointing, if they were disappointed, considering this is from A24. Maybe they were expecting the next Midsommar or the next Hereditary. But comparable to Hereditary, which was another great debut film that A24 put out, comparable to Hereditary, this film, like, has really strong moments, and it's got a couple weak moments. It's more consistently creepy than Hereditary, but overall, Hereditary is still a scarier film. It's just that Hereditary falls apart with cliches and shit in the final act. Thankfully, Saint Maud doesn't really do anything like that, at least in a sense that I think most horror fans would think is egregious. So I'm very thirsty. Gotta hydrate, you know? It's a fine movie. And especially for a debut, I'm very interested in seeing what Rose Glass does next. If, you know, she continues to work in the horror genre, I would be very, very pleased to see what she does next. Or outside of the horror genre. There have been a number of female directed debut horror films to come out recently, and it's really, really great to see, and they've all been at least interesting. This is definitely probably one of the best ones that's come out recently as far as horror debuts go. And on the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like Nosferatu and 10 being something like Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, Saint Maud is like a 3. It's got like a 1 really strong moment of violence, and that's about it. And then it's just kind of, you know, throughout the rest of it. And even that one moment isn't super, super gory. The effects are pretty decent in it, though. I'd have to say Saint Maud is not a absolutely revolutionary film by any means. But if you're a horror fan and you want something new to watch, this is new. This is something that just came out, and this is something that I think is very much worth giving a watch if you're a horror fan, if horror is your thing, or if you just want to, you know, watch something interesting. This film is pretty interesting, if anything. I think that's what it has going for it, is the fact that it is interesting. And unlike other, you know, psychological horror films of this type, this film has a very interesting religious slant to it, which I think provides for a lot more creativity in certain scenes, and I think provides for a lot more just like entertainment, not entertainment value. What am I trying to say? I think it just provides for a lot more interesting opportunities for visuals and you know, things you could do with visual effects and aesthetics. Because like, you know, say what you will about churches. Churches have an interesting aesthetic to them, architecturally. I'm starting to fucking ramble, so I guess I'll just kind of try and wrap it up here. Saint Maud is not an amazing movie by any means, but it's a pretty damn solid film. A great film for a debut, and I would definitely give it a solid recommendation to anybody who's a fan of psychological horror films, or just wants to watch, you know, something new. Anyway, guys, I'm going to give this one, you know, I'm feeling a bit generous tonight. I think I'm going to give this one, like, a 3 3/4 out of 5. I almost want to give it a 4, but, like, you know, if it would have gone a step further and would have done things a tad bit differently, it would earn a 4 out of 5 for me, you know, automatically. But that's it. That's the review for tonight. Anyway, guys, this is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews signing off. Peace.